Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Eugene Honrath from Shadow Warriors, and I've got Aeron Walton from 406 Holsters, and this is Meet the Maker. How you doing, man?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
Good. So, tell me a little bit about you and what you do.
My name is Aeron. I live in Missoula, Montana, and I have a small one-man holster shop. I make custom kite holsters, concealed carry, outside the waistband, and a few other Kydex products.
Nice. So, you're in Wazula, you said, Montana?
Missoula. Yep.
Missoula. All right. Is it still cold
Missoula. There? Yes, actually, it is. It's colder than it should be, and it's getting borderline ridiculous these days. We should be warming up or not.
How much longer do you have for winter?
Hopefully next week, but probably a bit too optimistic. We'll be in the problem that we have. The problem that we have is we stay it freezes at night. So even if we warm up in the day and it starts to melt off, it just turns everything to a sheet of ice at night. So we have pretty big temperature swings. But then once we get out of it, it'll be spring into summer, and it'll be good after that.
What's your summer look like?
Temperature wise?
Yeah.
We're generally we don't see hundreds too much, but we will head up over the hundreds. But the thing that we don't have that you have is the goddamn humidity.
Oh yeah, I mean we're you feel it a little bit today. We haven't felt it so much yet, but it'll get to the point where you can literally you walk outside and it's not necessarily like you're going into a steam room or a sauna. It's a little bit more subtle than that, but you definitely feel like you can cut the air.
I went down to Houston the first week of December to go visit a friend, and I flew into Houston, and I got off the plane at 11 o'clock, and I walked outside. As soon as the doors opened, I was like, oh my God. It was still 11. It's December. It was 11 o'clock at night. And doors to the airport open, and I was just, no, this is horrible.
Yeah. We're getting there. There's no turning back. It was 82 or something today. So we might have a couple cool days after it rains over the next month or so. But when we start to get into it starts to get full swing. Mid to late April and then into May. But it's only really May, June, July, August, September. It starts to get a little bit cool.
Just those 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, just half the year. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I can't say that it was 82, and I can't say that it was 42, but I will say it was over 32 today. Yeah. So.
So do you guys have, if you looked outside, do you have snow?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's ice now because we haven't had any. Well, we had some new snow last week, but the problem that we have is with the freezing thawing, it just turns it into gigantic piles of ice. I've got the transition from my driveway to the street, I've got 6 inches of solid ice on it.
6 inches of solid ice. That sounds like a lot of fun.
Until you're out there chipping it away in the spring, trying to get it out of your driveway.
Yeah, right. No, I can imagine. So I'll assume that you're bending, melting, reforming plastic with heat.
Mm-hmm.
I'll assume.
Yes.
How does the cold play into that? Is your shop inside? Not,
So I work out of my garage, and it's mostly insulated. Everything is insulated except the lid, and I haven't yet insulated the roof, but I do have a heater in here that I run, and so it doesn't affect the heating of the Kydex so much because of the heat press I use. I run it at 375 degrees, so it doesn't really care what the temperature is in the garage. But it actually helps once I pull the Kydex out and put it on the vac table. Just the ambient temperature will help it cool faster. I use compressed air to cool it down, but the ambient air temperature helps as well.
So is it just you doing Kydex?
It's just me. Yeah.
How did you get into Kydex?
I got into it about the same way everybody that does Kydex gets into it. I got tired of buying holsters that I didn't like at the store. And I distinctly remember I bought a Blackhawk inside the waistband leather holster. And I remember thinking it was like $65. And at that point in time, I was like, this is kind of an expensive holster. And it is. Yeah. And I wore it for about a week and I was like, I hate this thing. And so it was, it wasn't that it was leather. It was just the design itself I felt was poor. And so I just had kicked around the idea of doing it. And then, I actually had a buddy that I did some pistol matches with, and he got me into shooting pistol matches. He started building Kydex holsters, and he was on, and we fell in touch for a little bit, and then we got back into touch, and I asked him how the holsters was going, and he was like, "Oh, it's going to be good. I could probably quit my job tomorrow if I wanted to." And I was like, "Oh, like going from building holsters for some local guys that shoot pistol matches to quitting your job," and it wasn't. I can't remember what the amount of time was, but I was like, oh, okay. So then I started looking into it, and I was like, not that I was necessarily looking to make a bunch of money and quit my job,
right?
But I figured that it could be a viable thing to basically, I could sell a couple and help support a hobby of my own, making stuff that works for me. And so I started looking into the materials, and was him and Han on spending the money on it because I didn't have a whole lot of, extra spending cash for hobbies because everything else was on my other hobbies were already too expensive, and ordered my first pieces of plastic and a bunch of stuff that I didn't need and a bunch of stuff that it didn't end up working. And I made my first holster and actually it wasn't a holster. It was, I don't have it on me. The first thing I made was a business card holder, just folding the plastic around the mold just to try something first. And I still have it. I changed pants before this. So, and I keep it, it's in my pocket. It's the first thing that I ever made out of Kydex, and I still carry it every day. I keep my business cards in it. And I keep my door access cards in it. So, did that and just kind of went from there. Molding a holster poorly. Learned a lot about retention, a lot about blocking. Just kept dinking around with it. And at that point in time was like counting it by the square inch.
Yep.
Because it's got material costs. So I was like, oh, I need to make sure that I use exactly 9 square inches on this, or it'll cost too much. And now it's, you order it by the sheet and it doesn't, you realize that you're not counting it by square inches, but square feet. Yeah, so just kind of got into it, and then had a friend at work that had a new pistol and wanted me to make him a holster. So he came over and we spent, he was a tow truck driver at work. I want to say we were working on it long enough that he actually had a tow call that he had to go tow a car somewhere and managed to come back to the house before I'd even got his holsters done. And it was like, and so made him the holster and I was like, I don't even want to charge you for this because it's the first one I've ever made. But I can't remember what he paid me for it, but he gave me something for it and still has it, won't let me have it back. It's probably the worst holster I've ever made. And offered to buy it from him multiple times just so it's not out in the wild. And
what kind of gun pistol?
It was a Glock 42, left-handed in red. I still remember exactly what it was.
Oh! You're talking about the sheath.
Yeah, I'm talking about the holster that I made for him. Yeah.
No. It was a Glock 42, but you remember like it was left and in what color it was?
Yes. Yeah. It was the first actual like holster that I ever made that I sold. So, nice. And I can't seem to buy it back from him. So
now
he's claimed that he's keeping it. No, he doesn't even have the gun anymore. He claimed that he's keeping it because when his words were, when I become a famous holster maker, he can claim that he's got the first one I ever made. And I was like, okay.
That's
I,
awesome. No,
yeah,
that's
I figure he's a little optimistic on that, but it is what it is.
I think that those kind of things it's more that I mean, at least I understand where he's coming from. It's more monetarily, like it's
Yeah,
money is not that's not why he's keeping it. Like it's a
yeah,
connection to
oh yeah,
you, and it shows history, and that means something. At least it means something to me.
oh
So
yeah.
I can understand why he would want that. But what's your background, or what do you do today, like your normal job?
My day job, I am a mechanic for the U.S. Forest Service. So I maintain. I'm a small engine mechanic, so I maintain all of the gasoline powered equipment that wildland firefighters use for fighting wildfires. And
Okay.
so our facility maintains about 2,500 pieces of equipment between high pressure pumps, low pressure pumps, volume pumps, chainsaws, generators, anything that's gas powered that they use. Either in camp or on the line, we repair and maintain. So, and
Ah,
so we're our equipment. We're interagency, so our equipment can go anywhere in the country. But for the most part, it stays within our region, which is Region 1, which is where I'm at.
yeah. I asked that because I you seem to me. I mean, like in all disclosure to everyone who's watching, I am a customer of 406 holsters. Um, tech
Not
technically,
technically, you are.
well, I am, but no, technically, it was the first Kydex holster I'd ever bought. I had carried my Glock 19, which I still carry to this day, in a Galco leather holster with
Mhm.
with like a little sidecar with a mag holder to the left of it, inside the van waist, like all the like. Jesus, oh my god, like
Is the magazine attached to the holster,
yeah,
and you carry it strong side?
yes,
You ever tried reloading that?
yeah. Every. I mean, what's comical about it, right? So I was trying to think of. I, I've, 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 I have I carried that for a long time, like
Mhm.
a long time. And I never really had an issue with it. But the issue that is really apparent and like super obvious right now is, I mean, that thing, like, if I ever tussled or went sideways, that thing's falling out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's falling out. It was a little fitted, but I mean, really, when you consider Kydex, like not at all.
Oh, for
And
sure. And yeah, and that's the way that you know. There is more and more these days. There are a lot of really skilled leather makers that do fit it much better than they used to be.
sure,
But those mass produced, the Galcos and the Blackhawks and the stuff that's the mass produced stuff. It's like gun buckets. You know,
yeah,
it
it,
gravity is your retention.
yeah, right. I mean, it's the only I guess the only like there was a lot, the only positive to having is that it was covering the trigger,
Right.
and it was just in my pants, floating around. But yeah, it's day and night.
Mhm.
I don't know how someone maybe if I don't even know how I could ever go back to a leather holster. Nothing against them. I just don't for how I carry it
Yeah.
and with the heat and humidity and just with life. I feel much more confident in terms of life and moving around and doing
Yeah.
things with my gun holstered than I did before. I went from carrying it like 50-60% of the time to carrying it 99.999% of the time.
Mhm.
And that confidence boost was raised by having a Kydex sheath and different and other little factors too. But it's pretty interesting. But I asked you about your background because in conversations as a customer with you, you seem very and seeing you on the internet talking with people about Kydex, you seem very detail oriented and very like you care about. not just the function of it, but like the details of it and the thought put into it.
You can call it OCD. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the OCD, which is
It's
one of
actually,
those
we
things,
refer to it as CDO, but
which is one of those things that you don't really. I mean, if I'm going to rely on this holster, right, to hold something that could or could not save my life or my family or those around
Mhm.
me, I want thought put into it, right?
Sure.
You
Yeah.
know, I buy a Subaru because I like the engineering behind it, the thought, the craftsmanship, not just because I like how it drives.
Right.
But so I saw that pretty early on, and then I got a glowing review from you from at least JT McCoy, if not a
Sure.
couple other people.
Mhm.
And I was like, let's just do it. I'm super scared. I've never had anything else. Let's just go. And now like I can't see back. I was just thinking about this like before um we got on,
Mhm.
and the holster that was like at quick reach to me in my office is for the 1911 that you
Mhm.
made for me. I have two of them, two of them now at least. My dad might have.
There's mine. It
Oh,
looks almost just like yours. It's just a different color.
my dad would have probably like I don't know how he would have felt with a Kydex sheath for the 1911. It's a government issue 1911. It's been in our family for a really long time, and it's just one of those things that uh, is such old technology, right?
Sure.
In this new modern piece of plastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there are some diehards that look at the 1911. They look at Smith and Wesson wheel guns. They look at a lot of that older stuff, and they wouldn't dare put it in plastic. And I totally understand that. And um, I've got really good referrals as far as for people that want leather stuff, because as holster makers, you end up meeting all kinds of people. Actually, one of probably the best leather makers in the world lives about 30 miles south of me, and we
Okay.
met through Instagram. And literally, he was doing this was back when he had just started, and he was selling uh, black outside the waistband holsters. I can't remember if it was specific to the 1911 or not, but anyway, so I got in touch with them and I said, "Hey, you interested in doing a trade?" And I hadn't met this guy, didn't know him from Adam, and I just sent him a message, and he's like, I told him who I was and linked to my Instagram, and he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." He's like, "Can you do them for the XDS?" And I said, "Yeah, you bet." And so I made him a holster, and I was assuming I was trading for just the black standard one, but he ended up making another holster for me. And I drove down to his place, and we met for the first time and traded holsters, between two holster makers that had never met each other before. And actually, he's a real good friend of mine still to this day. I refer people to him all the time, and he actually refers people that want Kydex to me all the time. So there's each material has its benefits and its detractions, but
Yeah,
you know,
no. And listen, you're talking to a guy who, as weird as it sounds, loves the smell of leather.
oh yeah, mm-hmm.
Like I do. We went to a leather shop in it was a little bit more touristy, but we went to a leather shop in Gatlinburg or Seaverville, Tennessee, and I was like, my wife's like, what? She's like, oh, but she knew what
Right.
I liked, but it's
I don't think you're alone with that. I think everybody likes the smell of leather. I mean, it's
yeah,
the
so,
original. It's the original material.
yeah, I
You
just
know,
can't go. I just can't see going back, going back to the way that I carry back to leather, just in general.
sure.
It's just not. So so you started out with gun holsters.
Hmm.
What are some of the other specific items that you do in terms of Kydex?
Sure. So most people that do holsters end up branching out into sheaths. I did knife sheaths for a little while. I don't particularly care for doing knife sheaths. There are some amazing sheath makers out there, and all they do is sheaths. Um, I don't particularly care for doing sheaths because every single one of them is a one-off.
Yeah.
Um, unless you're dealing with a knife that's very prevalent, like a TDI K-bar or one of the SEs, something along those lines. But then the problem that you run into with that is, or I guess maybe not the SEs, but the K-bar TDIs, for example, are not terribly expensive,
Right.
and you have a hard time charging what you should charge for a sheath when they, if it's, I'm going to use round numbers. I can't remember the last time I saw the price on a TDI, but if it's a $50 knife, a lot of people have a hard time spending $50 on the sheath. You know what I mean? Whereas if you have if you're putting up money for a pistol and your sheath is, 10% of what the pistol cost, that's easier to swallow.
Right.
They're not time effective. Excuse me. They're not time effective and they're not cost effective for me because every one of them is a one-off. Gotcha. I do have one in my safe right now that I need to do that is a ridiculous sheath, and I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around how I'm going to actually do it. It. I've had it for a while.
Are you overthinking it at all?
No. Well, yes and no. It has the design of the knife itself is very simple and straightforward, but the entire spine of it is saw teeth.
Oh yeah.
And so you have to. There's a few different ways you can tackle that. I just really haven't been able to wrap my head around it, because you got to block them all out. And so if they're in here like this, you've got to figure out a way to block in between all those pieces. And I'm sure there's a sheath guy that might watch this is like, well, you just do this, you idiot. But I'm not. Yeah. So
well, hold on. So someone conned you into making them a knife sheath. Is that
yeah. Well, he didn't con me. I agreed to it, kind of because I was somewhat intrigued by it. But then it's kind of hard to stop everything that I'm doing and shift gears into something that I'm, that I got to change the way that I think about it, I guess. Yeah. I haven't even made, I take that back. I have made one knife sheath for myself, and it took me 3 years to finish.
Okay. All right.
And it's not difficult, and it is not a fancy sheath by any means. It's just a straight up sheath. And I just had it sitting in the shelf back here for like every once in a while I'd be like, I'm gonna work on that sheath. And then I'd get some holes drilled in it and be like, oh no, I gotta make a holster, I gotta make this such and such holster. So back on the shelf it'd go. And then but I finally got it done. 3 years later, I got her done.
Nice. Yeah, it's an interesting thing, right? So I haven't really had any like close ties with a lot of Kydex knife sheath makers, but the ones I've seen who have it's the same thing that you kind of see in all of maker, with a lot of makers is are they pricing it appropriately?
Yeah,
and then when they do a good job and they get super popular and they take all these orders in and that kind of stuff, you are right. It's like literally every single one is a one-off, even though hundreds, thousands of these knives are being sold. Not every single person, you and I probably don't have the same knives across the board.
No, I mean, no, I'm sure we don't. And I mean, and it's just the same as, well, it's a bit different, I suppose, from holsters because I don't know, and I could be wrong because I haven't looked into it because I don't do them much, but I don't know of any molding tooling for knives.
Right.
Like nobody makes the blue, maybe they do, but nobody makes the blue gun of knives, for every model out there. Sure. So then you can do it. You're going to have to buy every knife, and you're going to have to block out that knife every time you make a holster or a sheath for it. But then like there's a lot of guys that are charging a premium, but they're making really awesome sheaths, but they're like a big main knife and then a smaller knife attached to it. And then like a fire steel and a bunch of like multiple layers and all this stuff bolted together. And I look at it and they're awesome, but I look at it and I just something that doesn't, I mean, I know how to do it. It just doesn't appeal to me.
No, gotcha.
And
So
it's just I have, I make one sheath a year probably
gotcha.
on average.
Well, listen, if you can convince him to no. So you do so knife sheaths. You do mag holders like
Right.
one and
Mag
two
carriers, yep.
mag carriers. And then tourniquet stuff or
Yep.
holder tourniquet
Yep.
holder.
Tourniquet. Yep.
Did the key hook belt loop thing? This thing.
The key hook belt. Oh yeah, that.
Did you make this?
I did.
So I want to tell you this right now. This is so. I mean, this is my.
That's exactly why I made it.
I
Absolutely,
literally
100% why I made it.
I literally had that on from the time that I leave my house. If I'm I mean, I did an 18-hour drive the other like a couple weeks ago on my hip the whole entire time. Just
Does your car? Do you have the proximity key?
Yes.
Yeah. So you don't even have to get your keys out. You literally put that in your pocket when you leave the house.
Just right there. And I'm telling you this right now. This is probably the most. I would say this is the first or second most and I'm not pumping you up. I'm just literally telling you first or second most useful EDC item that I carry because of that reason. It doesn't take up any. I mean, it's this little thing right here. It doesn't take up any room in my my pocket, and it just sits on my belt, and it has a little. Here, it's not falling off ever. I mean, I don't even think I could break this if I really wanted to, but I could.
Yeah, that's not nylon, or excuse me, that's not Kydex. That's actually a Kydex clip. It's nylon 66, but it's intended for using as a belt clip on a holster. But I cut them down for that exact reason because I can't handle having the keys in the bottom of my pocket. So my main set of keys that I carry every day, I have on a key bar. But for my other vehicles, I have those clips on them because I can't handle having the keys in the bottom of my pocket. I take them with me when I travel, and when I get a rental car, I put that on the rental car keychain.
I mean, this thing is massive when you really look at it, like in the bottom of your pocket. So I love that. I think that and a bandana are the two most useful EDC items that I have outside of my gun and my knife.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's interesting, but I have loved all of the products. Like I said, I have 3 1911 holsters. I've got a belt. This is kind of what's called the ALS system or whatever. And then I have inside the waist for the 1911, even though I don't carry it all that much at all. So, I mean, I love all this, but what about
your fanny pack holster?
Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. Where's that at? Oh, you're right. Okay. So, oh man, do I have that out here? Hold on. You're in luck that I have it over here. So, all right. So I obviously trust Aeron to make something quality, right? So I came to him and I said, listen, man, I've got a really weird request. Can you can you do it? Please. I'll order something else with it. Just please do it. And so I have a fanny pack. This one amongst others. This one's actually getting all ripped up, but perfect size for my Glock 19. And I asked for him to create me just a
trigger guard holster.
Trigger guard holster, yeah. In some funky colors. But yeah. This is it, and it works. It works like a charm. Because the purpose of having a fanny pack is like, sure,
do tell.
Carry other stuff in it, but like you also have to be safe. you want to cut down on bulk. And I had my other holster in there with my Glock 19, and I was like, well, I don't really need all that. I just need something to be safe. And this thing is perfect. I mean, I can't even complain. And then I was like, can I have those two, funky, weird colors? And he obliged. He probably puked a little bit in his mouth when he made it.
Oh, no, I laughed the whole time. Because I could imagine you with your fanny pack and your pink and your green holster on your rollerblades on Miami Beach, and it just made me laugh.
And so, back to the whole, I think that the things that we buy, at least some of them, are connected to the person that makes them. And that's why I love this community so much. So if I needed something, why would I just go buy like some random dude's thing or some foreign made piece of junk on the internet when I could ask the guy that I know who's going to care about even the smallest function of that thing and get it right no matter what.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. I mean, all of the pieces that I have, I use every single day. I mean, I use this almost every single day. I use my other holster every single day. It's an interesting thing, right? So, they're very durable, which is almost it's a positive and a negative for you, right? So if someone unless they want to change a color,
right,
theoretically, most of the holster is going to last that person
forever,
their whole life.
Yeah. All you can do is hope that they buy another gun.
Or I don't have it with me right this second, but I got a weird, like, hard, like, knit, like notch in my my Glock 19 holster. Like I'll have to show offline. I'll show it to you. I can probably just sand it down, but I'll send you a picture of it. It didn't break or anything. I must have. I've never dropped my. I don't know. Something happened. But that's a negative for these things, right? So if someone buys you something else, how many do you? I already know the answer to this, but do you have a lot of repeat customers?
I do, and I have a lot of customers that I do, excuse me. I don't make holsters for everything out there. And so I have a lot of customers that will buy something, and it's two different ways. I have a lot of customers that will buy stuff and then get with me first on do I make a holster for it or not? And it'll be
like wait, like pre-sales, like they haven't bought it yet.
No, they have bought it, but then they just check with me first, and they're like, "Do you make a holster for this?" And I'll tell them yes or no. And then I have had people, honest to God, and this, I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but have said, I need a list of guns that you make holsters for because I want to purchase a new gun and I want to make sure that I can get a holster from you.
That's what I did. I have when I have the Glock 19 that I carry 9 out of 10 times, and then the LC9, and the next step is the 43. And the thing that I like about you, not to toot your own horn again, but you have the conversation and the dialogue, even if it's weird sometimes, about like, this is what I'm thinking about doing from a holster perspective, or just from a gun owner perspective, from someone that you trust. What's your opinion?
Right.
And I like it. I like it, a good unadulterated opinion.
Yeah. It's like there's a reason why I don't make sidecar holsters that everybody seems to think are the most amazing things on the planet.
So is that like,
yes,
like where they're like,
like, and
that's the only thing
I made one once for a guy that absolutely had to have one. He was a coworker of mine, and I made it and I tried it on, and I thought this was the dumbest thing ever. And I'll probably catch a bunch of flack for this, but the problem that you have with that is that they, no matter what anybody says, they're not really comfortable.
Right.
They like to think that they're comfortable because they paid, X amount of dollars and waited X amount of months to have it. And so they get it and it's the best thing ever because we waited for so long, and they don't admit to themselves that they're just not comfortable. And the problem is that you have this, shovel, size piece of plastic in the front of your waistband. And I'm sure there's people around here that have the body type and have the ability to carry every day with them that love them. And that's the only thing they're going to use. But if it's not comfortable, you're not going to carry it.
True.
End of story. And
you're right.
And even though I can't remember who it was, somebody will correct me. There was someone maybe it was Jeff Cooper, said handgun should be comforting, not comfortable, right? But unfortunately, we live in a society where if it's not comfortable, they're not going to carry it. And so I don't make sidecar holsters specifically for the reason that, like with you, with the spare single magazine carrier, you can put that anywhere on your waist. So if you want to carry your pistol appendix and keep that thing on your strong, your reload side, right? You can keep it there, and you can balance out some of the weight, or you can move that hot spot to somewhere else on the body. Whereas when you have a sidecar holster, you're stuck with it, and if you don't like the way it feels, you're not going to carry it. And because you spent $150 on this thing, you're not going to go out and spend $100 more on another separate holster and pistol combination. Sure. And there is a secondary market for holsters, but you're never going to get back that time that you waited for or the money that you spent on it. But that's just my personal opinion, is I just don't make them because I don't think people actually wear them.
And I've never had a side holster, but I can understand everything that you said in terms of like my body and hot spots and stuff like that. And I don't know what his name is, but he's the old like Vietnam veteran guy with silver hair, and he carries a 1911. He's like he's a pistol trainer, like he does like classes and stuff, and he's like seen as this authority. And one of the questions, he was like answering questions, blah 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 blah, and they were like, how many spare mags should I carry? And he's like, well, how long do you want to be able to fight? But the reality of that is that when it's 100+ degrees outside in Tampa, Florida, I might not want all that weight.
Right.
So
he was also talking about single stack magazines where he had 7 in the mag, so he's going to need 5 of them. True. Whereas you could carry your Glock 19 with one of the pipe and another 15-round mag and have more than four of his mags.
So I actually started my 19 feels like a 19X because I use 17 mags with a little spacer in there.
Sure.
But yeah, no, you're right. It's like it's that hot spot. It's being able to move it around, and that's just what I personally like. So if someone comes to you and if it's in the realm of the blue guns that you have already, what are you willing to do for someone who's like die hard for Aeron and 406, and they're willing to spend whatever money it is, like in terms of custom holsters, like buying new blue guns and learning that and this? Where's your tolerance level for that, or is it?
As far as like adding a new pistol line,
or doing something you've never really done a ton of,
right? So I want to state that I don't use blue guns to make holsters. I do have them, but I have tooling that's specific to each of the guns. Blue guns are actually not the best thing to make holsters with. I started out using them, and everybody starts out using them because they're the cheapest. But the problem that you have is the resin that they're made out of has too much shrinkage. So every blue gun out there is actually smaller in every dimension than the actual pistol.
Really?
Yes. So I can tell you that this we'll see what happens. I could prove myself wrong. This is a Glock 19. It should be exactly 1.0 inches wide. And it is 0.986. So it's 14 thousandths too small. So if you molded a holster off of this, your Glock 19 wouldn't actually fit in it. Or it would, but it'd fit in there so tight that you'd have a hard time getting it out.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what ultimately everything I do now is done with vacuum forming, and so I do use the blue guns as far as a folding tool. So if I don't have the actual real steel pistol, I can fold over a blue gun, and because all I needed to essentially do is line up the trigger guard for me, the rest of it the rest of it is a known, and it works. So ultimately, what I'm using them for is just folding tools. But back to your question, if for me, I like to have the ability to put real steel into the first one. So if somebody comes to me and they've got, X gun and I don't carry a holster for it, if they're local, usually what I will do is, see, in order to, it takes a bit to add a new model. So I have my vacuum tooling. I have generally a blue gun that I need something to fold over. So, and the tooling is not the tooling is not inexpensive. So generally it's, unless it's something that I know is going to sell, like it's a new gun that I know is going to be popular. Like when the SIG P365 came out, I knew it was going to be popular. So that's one of those things that I don't have a problem with, buying the tooling for, being able to make holsters for it. But the oddball stuff that, like, if somebody brings me something that I can look at it and go, you're the only one that's ever asked me for that holster, and I can guarantee I'm never going to get asked for another one. I'll do it.
Like a CZ. I was looking at something like a Jericho Israeli made,
right?
CZ clone,
like a Jericho 40 or something like that.
Yeah.
I have done one of those actually, but it was for a local guy. That was back when I did everything for everybody. Actually made him he raises bison of all things.
Oh,
so he raises bison and he carries.
That's a good person to know.
Yeah, and so he bought it's one of the only shoulder holsters that I ever made. This is back when I was first starting out. I don't do shoulder holsters. Like Miami Vice, baby.
Okay.
But he carried he worked with these bison, and so he said he couldn't carry anything on his waist because they were constantly like he was running into them, they were running into him, whatever. And so he wanted to carry it under his shoulder. So I made him a custom shoulder rig for that. And he actually paid for part of it with bison meat, which was fine. And he asked and he said, hey, do you want to trade some of this out for bison? And I said, absolutely. So, but that was like that Jericho, that Israeli Jericho 40 or whatever it was. So it's kind of twofold. Like if it's something that I know is going to sell, then sure. Like when SIG came out with the X macro, the new the P365 X macro.
Oh, okay.
I ordered tooling for that right away because I knew it was going to sell, because I knew holsters were going to, they were going to work. When trying to think of something new that just came out, when whatever, amazing new, pistol comes out at SHOT Show or whatever, I'm not going to run out and order the tooling for it because the market might not even support it. Gotcha. There's been a lot of pistols out there that were going to be the next big thing that you never even see in the real world. So.
Yeah. Okay. So what is whether it was filled or not, what is one of the craziest requests you have ever gotten? And you get extra points if it was JT McCoy requesting it.
No, JT does like purple holsters, though. I think I've made him a few in purple. The weird, I won't say the crazy. Well, what was it? So probably the oddest one I've ever had, and I did it. And as far as I know, to this day, the guy still uses it. Was I made a Kydex holster for Orbit gum.
Like it folds over like the little like card size.
The gum, I believe, is you pull it out and it opens up, but it's like a little cardboard paper box. Yeah. But he wanted to be able to put it in his pocket without crushing the gum box, whatever. So, and I think honestly, it might keep some of I'm sure he keeps it in his pocket every day, so it might keep some of the body heat off of his gum. I don't know, but that was probably the most unique thing I've ever had was Orbit gum.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I just have to buy a pack of Orbit gum and get measurements off it. And I created I don't know where it's at, created a out of a piece of wood, made a piece of wood the same size as Orbit gum and made him a holster for it. And as far as I know, to this day, you still use it. Every once in a while, I'll catch it on, they'll post it or post a picture and I'll see it on Facebook or something somewhere. So,
oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I'm trying to think of anything else that's been really bizarre.
Well, so here's another one. So
I did a rangefinder for my stepdad for golf.
Like handheld.
So he can keep it on his waist. Yeah.
Yeah.
A golf rangefinder. Yeah.
For your dad.
For my stepdad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my wife actually
has a dad.
What's that?
I said you got to respect dad.
And then I did my wife has a God, I don't know what you'd call it. It's a laser. It's like a laser
hair removal.
No. You got to keep that on you got to stay strapped with that one. No, it's a laser, like, for the lack of a better term, tape measure. So she does, she measures buildings. So she can, like, hold it and laser a building wall that's 250 feet away, and it'll tell her how far it is. But she was like, "Can you make a holster for this?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I made it, and it's like, she's like, "I love this thing." She's like, "I show it to everybody at work and tell them that none of them can have it. None of them can have one."
Gotcha.
But yeah, that's probably, it's usually the non-pistol stuff that's the weird stuff. Yeah, and it just all depends on if it's something that I can get molded and not crush.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So you told me about the bison meat. Has anyone ever what are some other like trades that you've done back and forth with Kydex work?
I've definitely used it as partial payment for stuff for some people. I almost always when it comes to like knives and stuff, sure, I'll almost always throw that out there to somebody like, "Hey, I make custom holsters, interested in a Glock 19 holster or something like that in partial trade." Some people take it, some people don't. I just always ask, and if they don't, I'm not offended. Because I would never go into a deal like that not being able to pay for it. I also do probably this wasn't Kydex related, but I do. I'm also a certified window tinter, and so I still do a lot of window tinting on the side. And I actually had a client that wanted me to do his like mini excavator, like the little, the smaller ones, not the little 2-track ones, like the little guys.
Yeah,
wanted me to tint his excavator, and I told him that I would trade out for excavator time because I'm going to need some dirt work done. And he said, "Oh yeah, no problem." And I said, he's like, "Just figure out what you charge me." And he's like, "We'll trade it out in dirt work." And I said, "Perfect." And get all done with it. And he's like, "That looks awesome." I was like, "Sweet, man." I was like, "All right, cool." He's like, "I got something for you." I was like, "What?" He reaches in his truck and he handed me a shotgun. And he says, "This is for you." And I said, "What for?" And he goes, "For tinting the excavator." And I said, No, we were trading out for dirt work." He's like, "Oh, you're going to get the dirt work, but I think you need this too." So,
oh, I love that stuff.
And that's the best part about Montana is that's what you can do.
Yeah. Have you born and raised in Montana?
No. I have lived in Montana more than anywhere else. I grew up in northern Idaho when I was real young, and then lived here in Missoula until about the 5th grade. And then we moved to Seattle for 12 years, and then I came back here in 99. So I've been in Missoula most of my adult life, but I did middle school and high school and a little bit of college in Seattle. I was in Seattle in the 90s when grunge was hitting, so that was fun.
Jinko jeans and stuff?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you bet.
I had at least 1 or 2 pairs of those.
And actually lots of flannel shirts, I guess. Lots of flannel shirts.
Oh, lots of flannel shirts. Yeah, of course. Oh yeah. So did I hear you tell me that maybe I saw it somewhere that the company that like either prototyped or custom made the Gladiators before they were actually a production?
Oh, the American Expedition vehicles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were based there. The original AEV Jeeps were made in Missoula. There's a shop not far from here where they originally.
It looks like the Gladiator, but it's a little tougher looking.
They originally started. Oh God, what did they call them? I think they called them the Brute, and it was an American Expedition Vehicles Brute. And they took a Jeep and they cut it, and they they were putting the truck. They were, I can't remember exactly what they were doing, but they were making like a Jeep truck.
Yeah.
And so they were building beds off the back of them. And what they were doing when they were originally doing them was they were, channeling the frames and making them longer. And they were putting Viper motors in them. They were putting Hemis in them. Because they were a complete custom job. So they'd put whatever you wanted in them.
Yeah.
And so then they got them licensed by Jeep. And then they started making them for Jeep. They were starting to make more of them. And then I don't know how it progressed from there, but any of the Gladiators, any of the Brutes, any of the Jeeps that have beds on them,
yep.
Those were all based off of a design that was made here in town.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's interesting. Do you still see some of them like driving around town, or they were all
the originals? Yeah, you do occasionally. They're not as common anymore. I don't know if people have stopped, driving them around or what, but you see all the actual Jeep produced ones. But
nice. Yeah, you see a lot of those. And I mean, those stock are just they're just ugly. They're just I think they're just ugly looking.
Yeah.
Now,
I saw one the other day. Sorry, I saw one the other day, and I don't keep up on the Jeep stuff, but I saw it like from a perfect side profile, and it looks like the cabs are getting bigger, and it looks like the beds are getting longer. And I looked at it and I went, "Why don't you just buy a full size truck?" But all the Jeep guys out there are going to be like, "Well, it's not a Jeep, and you can't off-road a full-size truck."
I can go anywhere off-road.
I can go anywhere in the mall that I want to.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna catch
the only ones that I think look good, especially of the Gladiators, and you're talking to a Jeep. I don't know if I would say I'm a Jeep guy. I drive a Jeep right now, but I'm not. Mm-hmm. I like unique vehicles.
I mean, I had a Jeep too. I had a '93 Wrangler, and I used to off-road the shit out of that thing.
But it's the only ones that look good of the Gladiators are the ones that are like 6-8-inch lift with huge tires on them,
right?
Like 30+ inch tires on them. To me, that's the only one. The stock Gladiator just looks out of place. Like they're like, let me cut this here and let me just slam this on here. It just looks weird.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's just me. Probably get a lot of flack for that, but oh well. So where's 406 Holsters going? Is this something that you want to be full-time? Like where are you going with this?
I don't feel like I want it to be full-time. I enjoy my job. And I like the holsters because one of probably the most powerful things that I ever learned after a while doing this was the ability to say no. Because there are a lot of people in this world that will say yes to anything. And prior, years past, I owned a business, a different business. And one of my business partners would say yes to everything and leave it to the rest of us to figure it out. And it just pissed me off to no end. And no matter what it was, didn't matter. If it was automotive related, he'd say yes. And then he'd come back and he'd be like, we got to figure out how to put 32 TVs in the roof of this Escalade. And, it was like, okay, sure. You just told him yes. And he's like, yeah. Okay. And so when I first started doing this, I said yes to everybody because I wanted the experience. I wanted the experience. I needed the experience on making the holsters, on figuring out what I needed to do as far as making the holsters work and making them safe. I needed to do every one that I could because I just needed that experience.
Sure.
In 2019, my mom had cancer. And so in 2019, I had to go out to Seattle for about 3 months. And thankfully enough, I was at a point in my career with the Forest Service that I was getting laid off, and I was able to have them just lay me off for the winter. So I was able to collect unemployment, and I was able to go out there and not have people from work breathing down my neck going, when are you coming back? When are you coming back? And I had to cut off the holsters because I didn't know when I was coming back. And so I just shut the website down, and people had the ability to email me and, just say, whatever. And I had lots of time to sort of think about what I was doing, what I wanted to do, what I didn't want to do. And one day I pulled up my website and I realized I was like, I don't want to do half of this stuff anymore because it's just not cost effective. It's not time effective. And I don't need to make everything for everybody anymore. Right. And I pulled up my website sitting on the couch at my mom's house in Seattle and just started deleting things off the website. Like, not going to do that, not going to do that, not going to do that. And I realized that I was going to have to come to a point where I could make things efficiently. They had to be cost effective to do, and they had to be time efficient so that I was able to get the orders out, So I still tell people no every day. I get emails every day on, don't see this on your website. Can you do it? Nope. People that have really non-mainstream lights and lasers, like Amazon stuff, like, hey, I bought this light for $30 off Amazon and I strapped it to the front of this gun. Can you make a holster for it? Absolutely not. Yeah, right. And I just, and there's power in that. And it helped a lot with, in 2018, I was busier than shit. Like, to the point where it was straining everything, because I was doing everything for everybody. I was telling everybody yes. And I was stressed out. My wife was stressed out. It wasn't where I wanted to be with it. And then when I kind of had that reset out in Seattle, I'm as busy as I want to be, and I have the ability to tell them no. And that's ultimately what, as far as where I want to go with this, I like what I'm doing now. I make as many holsters as is asked of me. I don't have holsters in any gun shops. I don't do gun shows. I don't do any of that stuff that adds stress, causes stress. I don't have to go like, holy crap, Cabela's, not Cabela's, but the local gun store needs 30 Glock 19 holsters by Friday. Like, I don't do that. And there's people out there that are like, well, you're not selling 30 holsters that way. Yeah, but I'm also watching Transformers on the couch with my kids, where you'd be out there trying to bang out 30 holsters,
Sure.
So
yeah, it's a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on it. I think that sure, you could say yes to everyone, maybe make a little bit more money, but what's the quality of life worth? Then I think that there's a balance that could be struck in terms of that. Plus, I think it's really hard to do everything at a high level and say yes to everyone. I have this conversation all the time about like staying in your lane, and it's not about not trying new things. It's just about like, you're the company, you're the person. You can only be so good at so many things until it strains you a little bit.
Yeah. And that was part of the I don't know what you'd call it, the watershed moment, I guess, in 2019 was, I want to do what I do really well. Right. And I don't want to, there's definitely ways in this industry that you can guess and make it work, but it's not going to be the best holster that you could make. Whereas I would much rather build something that I know is going to fit and know is going to work right, and focus on that, than saying yes to every, Jericho 40 cal with an Amazon light strapped to the bottom of it. That's not
sure.
That's not what I want to do.
And I'll tell you, as a customer, I can feel that. I want someone, because these things are, or may be, life and death, right? These are important things. I want someone that's like, some people probably see you sometimes as combative in some of those Kydex groups.
Sure.
But it's called like critical thinking. If you can't take your design and like have holes poked in it, you probably shouldn't be making that.
There's a lot of groupthink. There's a lot of groupthink that occurs in this industry, and sometimes you can look at it and there's stuff that people will say that you just read the words and know that this guy has no idea what he's talking about.
Right. And I mean, you don't think it's very like, I don't know how to say, you don't think it's very like logical, like in the sense of like some of the things I've seen you say about like uh do it this way versus this way.
Mhm.
But then when you kind of really think about it, and you're like, oh, I see what he's saying. I see why that he's doing it this way, and he just commented on. I like to see that kind of stuff because it
Yeah.
means I want my holster maker to be OCD and care about every little feature
Yeah.
on this and where everything sits and all that kind of stuff and the mechanism and the blocking and all that. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would want. I would rather pay, and this is not good for your customers, but I'd pay for more knowing that that kind of care was put into it versus we just heat up two pieces of plastic and slap them together on this
Sure.
glue gun and just freaking do it.
I was trying to see if I could find it. Okay, here we go. So, like for example, here's one of the molds. So you can order these molds from the maker with basically set up for the blocking for any kind of attachments you want.
Okay.
But they're permanent and they go wherever he happened to. So, like, I order my molds. This is a Glock 19 with a TLR7 on it.
Okay.
I don't order any blocking because every holster could be different. So if you know, I know that I have. Think about this. If I need to do like inside the waistband, you know, right-handed, I put blocking here and I build that blocking for each thing. And so, but you can buy them and they'll have all the blocking built into this mold, and you can't change. Well, you can change it, but you have to grind it off. Or the other thing is, if I have blocking set up, you know, for like over clips or something like that down here, but you want clips like on your 19 holster, the outside or the inside the waistband foamy clips. Not only do you have this blocking, but you have this ugly ass blocking down here that you don't use for anything.
Gotcha.
Like that's this kind of stuff that I it's like I look at it and it's like, okay, that's great. You can, you know, that's you have all the blocking for all the attachments on every holster, and you just drill the holes wherever you need, and they kind of look like shit, you know. Whereas I would much rather have, instead of having, you know, blocking here that was in the mold for an overhook or some other type of attachment, it's just smooth. I mean, that looks better than having a piece of blocking there that you don't use. So that's just part of OCD, I guess.
No, and listen, I don't think I'm a big fan, man. I everything that I've gotten from you is quality. The customer service is, I mean, I haven't had to use any customer service, like haven't had any.
I want to see that 19 holster though. I'm curious what happened there.
I'll have to show you it. I just realized it today. But I'll take a picture of it. It's not in any critical spot, and it's not a stress fracture or anything. It literally just looks like, I hate to say it, but it looks like I almost dropped it on, and there's like a nick in the Kydex. I'll have to show you it. I'll
throwing your guns around.
Yeah, I'll have to show you. But you know, like I want my Kydex holster maker to be OCD about that, right? I mean, so that's just anyway. So
it's a gift and a curse. It's a gift and a curse.
Yeah, right. I mean, especially when they're making your fanny pack trigger guard that's pink and green.
I will also say that is the only trigger guard holster I've ever made. That's a one of a kind right there. In more ways than one.
He's like, God damn. He's like, man. He's like, he took it in stride. He's like, you want what? And I'm like, yeah, that's what I want, man. And like I said, I would rather pay. I didn't really care or balk at the price because I want to buy and support someone that I know. And then like I said, it goes back to like the caring about that kind of stuff is, I don't know. Now that I've been introduced to Kydex on a quality level, right? Like if I would have just bought it off of line, like would the person have cared how deep this was or about it, or did they just like slap it on?
I can tell you that your top line right there goes, that line that across the top there goes right up to the top of the frame and just below the slide.
Yep.
And I did it on purpose because because it fits, and that's how it should fit.
I mean, it's perfect. You'll never see me like. I'm never gonna like throw a clip on this and put it in my waistband, but
No,
it serves a purpose.
you could. It's set up for that, but you could.
Yeah. No, I know that, but it's perfect for what it is.
It's perfect for rollerblading down Miami Beach in your short shorts
with my long socks rolled up down a little bit at the top. Listen, I love colors like that. Don't get me wrong, but the idea of like going with more earthy tone colors is it blends in with clothes better. I think, ultimately.
I mean, black is my number one color still. You know, it goes in phases. Every once in a while, I'll have a run on like olive drab green, or so it kind of goes in phases. But
so in terms of like Kydex colors and that kind of stuff, if it's out there, you'll do it, or is there like a quality?
If it's out there and I can order it, and there's, I mean, and I also have the ability to do custom prints. Like, there's people that want to have, gosh, what did I do? Last one I did for somebody was like a purple-ish leopard print, and I can get all the, I don't keep any of that in stock because they're just too expensive to sit on a bunch of them, and I don't know how many people are going to want purple leopard print, so I don't keep it. But I can get it made in a couple of days, and I can get it shipped up. So usually by the time that I'm usually about, I maintain about a 3-week lead time on my stuff, and that gives me some time in there to order stuff if I need. Like, say if somebody wants purple leopard print, I can get that piece ordered, and it'll get to me about by the time that the holster order comes up. And that also allows me some time in there to run my regular life as well. So, most orders are finished prior to that 3 weeks. But
so when you say custom print, are we talking about like logos and stuff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like if you want that.
My face?
Yeah, I can get your. I can here. I got to grab one. Are you you watch Rick and Morty?
Oh, a little enough to know what's going on. Yeah.
You know who Pickle Rick is?
Yeah.
This was a custom camo that I designed and had one of my friends that used to print, but they don't print anymore, printed that. It's Pickle Rick camouflage. And it's on neon green.
That's hilarious.
Here's another one. Oh, where'd it go? This was a special request from a guy that I also had my friends. You'll get a kick out of this.
What does it say?
That bitch, Carol Baskins.
Carol. Oh, that okay. For a second, I was trying to like train what that was.
Yeah.
It's
the Tiger King. It says that bitch, Carol Baskin.
And it's Tiger King like snuggling next to a tiger.
Yeah. So I had a guy. He's like, "Could you do that?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." But so you can get almost anything.
Hold on. So you just have there. So you want someone to order that, so it doesn't sit in your
This
shop.
is one of those ones where it was like, what did I end up doing? I made him a holster, and then he wanted a dump tray, and then he wanted something else, all in this same print. And so I ordered a fourth one just because I was like, he's probably going to order something else, and it's cheaper to just order a fourth one than, and add it to that order than order a whole new fourth one. Well, I'm sitting on it, but it's still kind of funny. So, but yeah, I mean, this is stuff that you can have, and I don't do any of the custom printing. There's plenty of, very talented people in the industry that do the printing that I'm not going to mess with it.
No.
There's times in your life where you just have to get the pros from Dover to do it, and that sort of stuff is one of them. So you want your Shadow Warriors logo on your next holster, we can get that made.
Nice. So is that like absorbently expensive, or is it just a little bit?
It's usually, depending on how big it needs to be and what material it's on, it might add $20 to the holster. Yeah. So
okay. All right.
Yeah. It depends. Like, for example, like multicam, like this stuff, this is like, license. This is actual multicam, Cry Precision license stuff. And this stuff is expensive because they are I mean, anything that's multicam is expensive because
Right.
they're you gotta pay to license that stuff. But
Sure.
like that stuff it's probably it might be about the same, but it's much more expensive than just your standard Shikai does.
Will they print? Do you have people who will print just about anything?
Oh yeah, they don't give a shit.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I mean, I would say that probably most of the people in the industry probably have the same sense of humor that we do, and if penis camo is not uncommon, we'll put it that way.
Okay, all right, okay. I mean, because I could see if they're pickles, I mean, they could be something else.
Yeah.
Easily,
oh yeah. No, I've seen it all. I've seen yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that, and I think that's such a I mean, even for another $50 or $100, like that's such a unique thing that I think that people. It's interesting. My brother recently got into lasering.
Oh, so sure.
Like just wood products and stuff like that. And he's even getting like requests for custom stuff that he's like, you are you sure you want me to make that? Or
does he have an Etsy shop yet?
No, not yet. Where
he needs one.
He is OCD, very similar to you, and he had this because it was a new thing that he was getting into. He really wanted to master it.
Sure.
So he did more prototypes than you can imagine. Like, and money wasn't a thing to him because he felt like his quality needed to be at a certain level before he even like sold one thing.
Right. And ultimately the substrates aren't that expensive. It's the time. And if the time doesn't matter, then the money for the substrates don't matter.
Yeah. So that's interesting. How do you put this logo on?
That's done with a laser. I have a guy here locally that laser etches all my attachments.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I actually have some new stuff I need to drop off to him here recently. It's been in my bag, my day pack for like a month. But yeah, no, he does all the lasering on all of my attachments, all the belt clips, all the anything that I have done. He does it here. He's actually, I say local. He's like down the block.
I mean, listen, people. If you have this key that doesn't need to come out of your pocket, literally for nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe to open up the back gate, but you need to get one of these. Like,
yeah.
It's I don't know.
And I think they're what, $4 or something like that. They're not.
It's so
I usually a lot of times I throw them in with holster orders, so they're not prohibitively expensive at all.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't know. I mean, just like I don't know. It's you can ask my wife. It just all her keys always stay in her purse, and when I leave the house, this is just always strapped to my side.
The other thing you can do too is like they work. Not necessarily for your keys, but if you had stuff like they clip into MOLLE, like on plate carriers,
okay, yeah, sure,
and they won't come out because of that back hook like that.
Yeah,
you got to force it to come out of a MOLLE. But so I've had, I don't know what you could keep your rainbow keychain on your MOLLE carrier. I don't know.
I think they're awesome. So how can people? What social platforms are you on? You have a website. Like, tell me a little bit about how people get in touch with you, what you prefer in terms of that.
Yeah, I do. I do a website. It's 406holsters.com. It's kind of continually under, I do all of the it's hosted on Squarespace. I do all of the all of the website. So I have to tell people like, hey, sometimes I have stuff that I have, that I forgot to put on there, and they'll call me like, hey, I wanted to order this, but it's not on there. And you said it was. Like, oh, well, sorry. Let me hang on a second. I do the website too. So let me correct that real quick.
Let me go talk to that jackass.
Let me go talk to the web designer real quick.
Let me put my other hat on. Okay, here we go.
So I take care of all the website stuff. I also do Facebook is at 406 Holsters. Instagram is at Ballistic Jewelry, which is something that I started prior to the holsters, but it was kind of one of those things where I was like, if I change the name, do I lose the followers or who knows? So I just left it there because that's what it is. I don't do I don't do TikTok. I don't do Twitter. I don't do any of the other ones. I'm
OnlyFans. Are we?
no. Well, that one you have to slide into the DMs for the OnlyFans info. It's a red and black lumberjack. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Anyway, Facebook and Instagram. You can reach out via email through the website, instant message.
Do you have a group?
I do have a group also. It's also at 406 Holsters, but it's no, I'm sorry, it's not. It's a group. So it's 406 Holsters.
Yeah,
sorry,
so just search it in the Facebook. We'll have all the links below, or whatever platform you're watching in this on. We'll have that on. And he always is like, "Hey, I made an extra one of these. Do you want?"
That's actually true. And most of the time when I screw it up, it's like I was like, well, I'll just finish it. And I'll realize my mistake about halfway through, and I'll be like, well, I'll just finish it and make another holster because it's, somebody will,
I think that's how I have so many 1911 holsters. I mean, this one was for the range.
Yeah.
Had the waistbands for that. And then I think you had another belt one that came up, and I was like, well, why not? Let's just do it. Literally my kids will have these holsters with the guns. I mean, like, especially these ones that aren't really getting used at all.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to talk about another daily carry holster. And now that I know it's not that expensive to do a print, we might have to talk about that too.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so, no, it's you just got to ultimately, if you can email or even just IM me a high res picture, that's usually all they need. And like I said, I don't know how they do it. I don't know what they use for printers. I don't know. I know they put it on Kydex. I have no idea all I know is that I send them an email and say, hey, I need this on a 12 by 12 piece of Kydex. And they go, you bet, it'll be there in a week. And that's how I handle that.
Awesome. I mean, I think that's so, that's awesome. I mean, people want custom things, and especially if they actually care about like what they're getting, and they're not like buying it off of like some random dude on an eBay or something like that. I think that can really, it's so weird, right? So in the gun world, custom holsters and that kind of stuff is like, of course, that's what we do.
Yeah.
In the knife world, it's you can have that gun guy, that same gun guy who's buying custom holsters and spending a ton of money, have like a $40 knife.
Yeah.
And not even know that there are custom knives out there.
Right. Exactly. And yes, you're right. It's interesting because knife guys and gun guys, they don't always cross over.
Nope.
You see a lot of guys like, I mean, that are, big into guns and have a huge collection and carry a $40 Gerber, and they don't care because literally all they do is open the boxes, their gun parts come in, and and then it's the complete opposite. You'll have somebody that's got, $1,000 knives in their pocket and,
a soft nylon.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Or I was more to the point. I was going from, they'll have $1,000 knife in their pocket and they keep a $120 high point in the glove box of their car. You know what I mean? It's
interesting. And I think that on the knife making side, that's a positive because it means that there's room for growth. And there have been people that I've introduced to the custom knife world that were like, this is here, but
yeah,
I didn't know this whole world existed.
Oh, yeah.
And then they buy $100 custom and then a $400 custom, and
right.
they're like, yeah, I bought a $1,000 custom, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. So
I still struggle with that because anything over about $400, you're getting into gun money.
Yeah.
And there's people out there that are going to be like, well, yeah, but you can't have a $1,000 custom, knife for $400. I'm like, well, that's cool. I'll that's your thing. That's, I look at it. Whereas if I, you start getting into gun money, then for me, it's more of an investment, because then I buy a gun that I don't have, I buy tooling I don't have, I start making holsters I didn't make before, and then all of a sudden that gun's paid off.
Yep.
Right. And, paid off. But it's hard to do that when you're just buying knives to put in the safe.
Some guys like that, man.
I know. I know.
It's a weird thing. I wouldn't say that I've got more than the average. But these days, and I feel like I'm a snob sometimes when I think about this or say it. I know people that can make me the knife that I want. I'm never going to buy like a standard stock knife probably ever again.
Sure.
Especially a fixed blade. Like and then if it's a folder, I know the folder makers as well that that's, I'm going to spend, if I'm actually going to spend money on it, I'm going to spend money on their knives as opposed to, so it's a weird thing. Like I had this vision. I worked on this project with a guy that went on Naked and Afraid. It's basically, when you said sawtooth, I thought about it because it's basically a combination of a machete, an axe in terms of the weight, and it has a sawtooth on the back. Freaking thing's monster, but you can choke up on it, and it has two grinds on it. Has a really small, like a smaller grind down near the handle, and the Black Horse knives made it out of Ohio for me, and the guy that went on Naked and Afraid, and he did really well. And then I just
That's funny. I know a guy that was on Naked and Afraid too.
Oh, did you? Did he make it all the way?
I haven't watched the episode, to be honest with you. It's not a show that I watch. I just know that he was on there. I should watch it though.
Yeah, I should see if he made it through. I told him, I said, listen, man, you could make a lot. Like you could, and this is funny to me, but you could be coined as like a survival expert if you just complete that one thing and don't say anything like racist or hateful or crazy. Like, if you don't look nuts on there. And I had the vision of that the other day that came up on my phone or something like that. And I was like, I need that knife made again because he has the only one that we got made. Yeah. And I'm talking to Justin Godby to get that made. He lives in Asheville. So it's like, that's how I see custom knives these days, is like, or knives in general. If I need a knife, I'm not going to go to a store or buy it online. Unfortunately, right. I'm just going to have one of my friends make it.
Yeah.
So, but man, it was a pleasure tonight. I appreciate it. Is there anything any last thought or anything that you want to say to
no, I'm pretty simple. No, but thanks for the opportunity. I appreciate it. And, if anybody's got questions if they have hate mail, they have to send it to you, because I'm sure I offended somebody somehow.
The link will be
the link to Eugene's email for complaints will be in the link below. I've never done that before. In the link below, I've watched a lot of videos, lots of YouTube videos, but I've never done that before.
Somewhere down here.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And I appreciate your business, and I appreciate everybody's business that's buying holsters from me. And especially,
I'll be honest, especially you, JT McCoy. No,
that's right, JT.
So
this is actually JT's holster. Let's see if you watch to the end.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought he liked purple. No.
He requested multicam on that one.
Okay.
So,
okay.
He does like purple though.
We're getting serious. No.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, hey, have a good night, brother.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
All right, man.